Hello and welcome to Drawing a Blank. I'm your host, Rhett Hall, also known as Barely Lethal. And I just want to say thank you, first of all, to everyone who came out and watched the very first episode. You guys were amazing. You really showed out, and I appreciate it. Gave a lot of feedback that will hopefully take the show, make it better for future episodes and tonight's episode as well. And speaking of tonight's episode, I'm extremely excited to share this guest with you. She's a full-time senior manager of creative services, which is a fancy name for a graphic designer and motion designer for Splash Entertainment and Kabillion TV On Demand. She's also a Twitch affiliate streaming in the art category, and you can also find her speed art time lapses and DIY home projects on YouTube as LNZDesigns. It's Lindsay Garber. How are you doing tonight, Lindsay?
Hey, wow, you know so much about me. I'm amazed.
It helps whenever you send me the things to say.
Oh, did I do that? Oh, thank you, past me.
You did.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to create something with you today.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you were on board to do the show. I've been a fan of your work for quite a while, since we met on probably Young Khan's streams is probably where we met, or at least maybe on Twitter. But I've been a really big fan of your vector artwork, and because I am a huge fan of vector artwork and doing vector artwork, so a lot of your stuff you do in vector, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much. And I must say, just on the flip side, I mean, I adore how passionate you are about the art community, how vocal you are in a lot of the streams that I see you in and on Twitter, always shouting people out, always sharing their stuff. I must say, if there's like a pinnacle of a really good, awesome person to have in your corner and supporting the community, it would be you. So thank you, Barely.
Well, I appreciate that. I've never been the pinnacle of anything, so I appreciate that.
You're my pinnacle.
Yeah, there we go. So before we get going, I have some show rules, and we'll go through those really quick. For those of you, thank you who watched the episode before. I think I've already said that, but I really appreciate it. And so the rules are the same; they're always the same. But I do have a curveball to throw at Lindsay if she's game, that I did not warn her warn her before about. So it's going to be exciting. We'll see if she's good for it. But show rules. Number one, we will choose a random prompt that consists of an object, a color, and an emotion. We each have 1 hour to sketch and complete our interpretation of the prompt. During that hour, I will be interviewing Lindsay about herself and her art process, and kind of her motivations and stuff like that in the art industry and art as a thing, I guess. And at the end of the hour, we will share our pieces, and you guys will get to see the entire process as we go, but we will not, and we'll share them with each other and kind of talk about it and give a short critique. We only like the positive things here. We're not here to tear down or to make you feel inadequate. So we're going to be talking about the things that we love about the artwork, and it's going to be really good. I'm really excited to see what you come up with the prompt.
I'm excited too, and see what you got, and I'm curious about this curveball.
Okay, so since we talked about vector artwork in the very beginning, I would like to throw out a deeper challenge that if you're game, we will do a 30-minute sketch and a 30-minute vector finish.
Oh, yes. That sounds amazing.
You good with that?
So like sketch in
awesome.
Photoshop and then move over to Illustrator?
Right. I think because that's how a lot of our work, both of us, how we do our work a lot of times. And I like to show that process of how you would sketch anything, the things that you do in Photoshop, and then send it over to Illustrator. So it can be a little bit educational as well.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. I'm glad you're up for the challenge. I don't know if I'm actually up for the challenge or not, but I'm glad that you are.
Challenge accepted.
All right, so let's click the random button and get our prompt for the evening, and see where this takes us. And we're gonna click it now, and here we go. Okay, world is the object, green is the color, and the emotion is impressed.
Okay.
So
that's kind of, it all goes together in kind of a lovely trio of things.
It really does.
Yeah, I don't know if I
Me.
want to go like super direct. Yeah, like I don't know if I want to like straight up do a green world.
Right.
But this is interesting. I'm gonna have to think a
Let
second.
me.
Impressed. Impressed.
All right.
Interesting.
And 1 hour on the clock, and we're a go.
All right.
All right. So, Lindsay,
Yes.
let's talk about you for a second.
Ooh.
Um, so, first of all, tell everybody where they can find you. We talked about LNZDesigns, but where they can find you on social media, on the internet, where they can find your art and all that kind of stuff before we get too far into it.
Well, I am. It's kind of funny you say that because I am LNZ Designs on just about everything, except for my website is lindsaygarber.com. But the funny
Right.
thing is, I've been trying to get LNZ Designs as a domain name, but like various companies have picked it up, but obviously they can't get any of the social networks. So I've been seeing like the companies that own LNZ Designs change. Like it was an architecture company, and then it was a Chinese gambling company, and
Oh
and
no.
right now no one has it. I think it's because I took every social network for LNZ Designs, so it kind of messes up their whole thing. So
Right.
but yeah, I've got YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. That's where I chat with Barely. um yeah, I got just about everything except I don't really understand Snapchat, so I don't really use it that much.
Yeah, I don't use it either. It
Yeah.
just seems like a. It just seems like a place I don't need to be. On
Yeah.
the internet, you know.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up? I know you live on the West Coast now. Are you from the West Coast originally, or?
Yeah, born and raised in Los Angeles.
Oh
I
wow.
did go to art school though in the East Coast because my dad's from Springfield, Mass, and he
Oh
straight up told me he would not help me with college unless I left California, which was one of the greatest
right.
things a parent could say. I will say though that I did go to junior college for a number of years, and I played a lot of sports, so I didn't actually start doing any art classes until I went to junior college. But I used to draw a lot and do a lot of graphics and stuff as a kid. I used to want to be sponsored for skateboarding. Growing up in LA, I did the trio. I was snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing for a number of years. I still only really snowboard, but I still got my skateboard, and I know in a heartbeat I can just jump on it and be like yesterday. But I haven't skated in a little bit just because
Right.
I just haven't had like any friends my age really wanting to go and skate, but I do cycle. But I went to art school after I got my liberal arts degree in a junior college while also playing
Right.
sports for the Pierce Junior College, their softball team. I went over to Boston, and I went to the Lesley University College of Art and Design. It's a private art school. And I graduated at the top of my class there with they
Oh
gave one
wow.
award to each department, and I got the award for graphic design. So I graduated at the top of my class there, and I came right back to LA. Obviously, it's very hard to live somewhere like that when you don't grow up there.
Right. Yeah. So how was your start in art? Like, where did that all? I mean, you said you used to draw and stuff like that, but you were doing all these other things. Where did that kind of come from as a kid?
That's you have such good questions. I love talking about this stuff. So I actually, my mother, she's from Jerusalem, and
Oh wow.
yeah, so I'm the firstborn American on on my mother's side. So she grew up having to make her own toys. Her mother would sew her clothes. So I came as my mother. She would make her own jewelry. She would make things out of fabric. She even made some clothes of mine growing up and accessories, and she would oil paint. So I grew up like having the stuff around me, and my mom was always not a substitute teacher, but like a an art mom that would come to my elementary school and teach everybody about different culture
Oh
and
wow.
about art. My dad's a creative writer, and he was always on the cusp of technology. So I remember, we got our first computer so long ago. So I'm like the hybrid between my mother being a digital artist and my father on the cusp of technology and being a creative problem solver with his writing. I naturally kind of fell into the graphic design because of the technology that we had, but also the influence of my mother. So that's kind of how it
Right.
happened. But it
Well,
started
that's
off with
interesting because like,
websites.
right. It's really interesting because like I always wonder about how like early adopters with technology and the people who kind of started in sort of what the digital art industry is now, they started with very limited technology. I mean, we have everything at our fingertips now, but what was that? What was that like in the early stages of graphic design like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, like once again, I will say I'm from LA. So things
Right,
like Volcom skateboarding and that was like all the skateboarding magazines and the grunge from, the early 90s and the early, 2000s. I was really into like collage and grunge. And I didn't actually take an art class until I was in college. So a
right,
lot of it came from just being around art and seeing all of these different types of things around me that kind of influenced me. So, I started with like making websites, and then I wanted to be sponsored for skateboarding. So I would like have my brother take photos and videos, and I would, skate and make posters and collages and stuff of that. And like I had a huge
right.
dream of like making, t-shirts and stuff for like Roxy and Quicksilver. And
Yeah, all the brands. Yeah,
yeah,
all the brands.
yeah, and that's
Those they always had the coolest designs though.
yeah.
Like especially Quicksilver. I always loved Quicksilver
Mm-hmm.
back
Hell
in the
yeah.
day. Yeah, that's awesome though. That is very much in my own to my own heart of what art is as well, cuz doing logos and branding and stuff like that, it's a very similar process. It's a very similar like the things that you like about it, like looking at old logos and stuff like that and old designs, like it's very similar. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that whole aesthetic and the things that you like with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's I'm very lucky to just have the parents that I had, or else I don't know what I would be doing. I originally went to junior college to become a teacher, because, like, an elementary school teacher, because I didn't take any art
Oh wow.
classes and I didn't know that being an artist could, and it's still hard sometimes, but could make you money or can make you money. Or,
Right.
so it's,
Oh, it can? Is that you're saying it can?
yeah, yeah, believe it or
Since
not.
since when? You're supposed to make money doing this?
It can happen. I mean, it's
Wouldn't
just
that
got to
be the
be the
day?
right place at the right time, kind of thing, I guess. Which is
Right.
what happened
That
for
that
me. So I just got lucky.
right. So let's talk about you're kind of out of college now and you've come back and you have found this new industry that you're in now. You've kind of thrown yourself into it by being a part of that and going in, deciding to do that in college and whatnot. What's the process of now finding a job in design?
uh,
What was that? What did that look like?
It's very tough, but like I said, was super lucky. So as I was growing up, I played a lot of sports. So that was like my life, and I wasn't thinking that I was good at much else. And so my dad, being a writer and worked for, animation studios and things like that, when I was a senior in high school, he asked if I could be a free intern, on,
Oh
once a
wow.
week on Wednesdays, just doing whatever. And so that's what I did. I didn't have any experience. I was sweeping floors. I was installing programs on computers. I was painting cork boards black so that the storyboards would pop off of the cork board. I was getting people coffee.
Right.
It was like stuff like that. And so then I got to realize, Oh my gosh, there's so many different types of jobs here. Like there was people who, there's IT guys, obviously. Like you can be an IT guy for an animation studio. You can just be a colorist. You can just do storyboards. There's so many things that you can just design props. And I had no idea. So that kind of opened my mind, but still an in-house graphic designer for an animation studio is very rare. A lot of the bigger studios like Cartoon Network, which is owned by Turner, like they outsource to different companies and things like that. I'm just very lucky that I'm at a small studio, which constantly needs marketing and advertising. So they knew me because I was interning there when I was a senior in high school. And then a few years went by and I was doing a lot of stuff in Photoshop because of skateboarding and things like that. And then I went to college. And when I came back, they remembered me. And so they gave me an interview and they said, you know what? We're opening up this new department called Creative Services. And if you want, we see you know how to use Photoshop, so that's what we need. So why don't you start? And it was really, I had one boss who was, my boss of creative services, and I assisted him. And then after a while, after a few years, he left to another company, and now I'm the senior manager of creative services. So I was lucky because I was introduced, and the industry is like that. They'll remember you. I'm saddened to also say that a lot of people in the industry don't have the experience needed for certain situations, but because they know people, they're given a shot and they're given a position. But that's not always the case. I'm just saying, just because someone's in a position doesn't mean they're better than you. Just keep fighting and keep working on your portfolio, keep meeting people. You never know if somebody who you admire is thinking about going somewhere else and they may need someone else to fill their position. It's all about who you know. And I'm kind of sorry to say that, but also like, it's just kind of... I want to say it's like, it is, right? I want to say like, oh, it's all the hard work always, but it's also like, it is the hustle if you don't have, but it's also, it's who you know.
Yeah. So let's talk about, the job that you have now. You're working for Splash and for Kabillion, which are the same company, right? They're the same entity,
so
basically.
Splash is the animation company where we make the animations and the movies happen, and we also do a bit of distributing internationally. And then Kabillion is a TV on demand. So we actually had Kabillion for about 12 years or something. So you know how like Disney Plus just came out, and you know how like these stations are starting to have their apps. Well, we did that like 10 years ago. So we were like ahead of the curve. So that's what Kabillion is. We can offer also the opportunity that if someone already has a show that they made, well, we can also put that show out on our own kids network, our family-friendly, kid-safe network. And it's free for other people to watch.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I kind of knew that, but I guess I didn't realize it was as involved as, what you guys do. Because unless you know, you don't know, you know?
Yep.
Does that make sense? Unless saying. You know, you don't know.
Yeah, I think that's in like some songs that I've heard before.
It probably is. Nothing I say is unique to anything. I just borrow from everyone.
We all do, even in art.
So while we're working on this, in your sketching process, we're about 40. We have about 45 minutes left. Talk about your work process, and whenever you're approaching a project and you're sketching versus doing finishing work and stuff like that. Talk about some of the techniques that you like to use, some of your favorite things, maybe some shortcuts that you like to take, or some tricks that you like to do whenever you're working on projects. Well, anything like that can maybe help.
Yeah, sure. Obviously what we're doing now is pretty hard because I'm talking and drawing and problem solving at the same time. So this isn't something to, my process right now isn't something to be judging on what I usually do.
You're just in panic right now, right?
Yeah, right now I'm like, oh, geez. But usually I like to write, and I'll just brain barf like a lot of stuff. So like, let's say I have to come up with a logo for a show that is in development. Okay, what's the show name? Okay, and what are the elements? What are the themes? What are some colors that inspire me? What do these colors make me feel? And you basically do like the seven points of separations thing between like all this stuff that just, like comes out of your head. So it's like, this is a horrible example, but I remember doing this in art school where one day in my advertising class, they said, all right, the word is toilet. Now, what do
Oh
you think
God.
of when you think of toilet? It's just like an exercise. So, what do you think about? Well, one thing could be a fish funeral because, when you throw away your fish, you flush them down the toilet. Okay, what can you do with that? That's kind of interesting, but what are some other things? Like, what else can the toilet mean? So it's like, that's a horrible,
Right.
I hate saying the word toilet, especially live, and this is going to be
That's
online
okay.
forever, but it's the same thing with every process. Just start writing, start doodling, but writing is faster for me. And then I start connecting things, and I'm like, okay, what's some good imagery? And then you kind of have to, with animation and entertainment, if you look at the consistencies of logos, they're actually very simple because not only do they have to translate across a lot of languages, so if you're putting a lot of symbols and stuff for English in another
Right.
vocabulary in another country, they may not have or be able to use those symbols. And also, it has to be able to be as small as on the spine of a DVD or as big as a billboard. So you kind of
Right.
just have to learn how to simplify things down. And yeah, that's kind of you go big and then you just kind of squeeze in.
Right. Yeah. 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 So you talk about writing. Is that a carryover from your dad? Is that something that you kind of got used to from your dad and working that into your process?
Maybe so. Quick question. What was the
Yeah.
expression? It's earth green, and what was the third thing?
Impressed.
Impressed. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna work that in as well. So.
Yes. I'm trying. But yeah, my dad, my parents, who are probably going to listen to this because they support me on everything, which
Oh,
I'm happy to
nice.
say.
Hi, mom
They,
and dad.
yeah,
Hello.
hey mom, hey dad. They support me with everything that I do, but the thing is, they never forced me to do anything, which is a good and a
Right.
bad thing because I never went into art until college. So why didn't,
Right.
when my parents see that I had an interest in it, why didn't they say, hey, you should do this? Or like with sports, I said, I want to do this. And they're like, we are
Right.
100% behind you. They're always 100% behind me, but yeah, it's like
Right.
I wonder like what could I have, who could I be right now if, I mean, I'm sure you think the same thing. Like you
Oh,
started art
absolutely.
recently, like not super recently,
Absolutely.
but I know I've listened to
Yeah.
your what you've said,
I
and
kick myself. I kick myself almost on the daily that because I used to do artsy stuff. I've never really drawn. I've never really been a what I call like a natural drawer. I know that it does take practice, and nobody's really a quote unquote natural.
yeah.
Um, but I am not someone that just I kind of picked it up, just kind of out of necessity, because the things that I wanted to do, um,
Mm-hmm.
required it. Like logos, really. I mean, you don't have to do it with graphic design. You could just kind of go straight to vector. But the way that I wanted to be able to do custom work for people, you kind of do need to know how to draw, at least a little bit, so that you're not just copying shapes and whatnot. You're actually creating custom work, and that's just how I operate. But I will frame the question differently, because the thing that I find interesting is, my dad was a DJ
Oh, nice.
at a radio station. And so, before all of this, before streaming, before doing art, I had a podcast and I did an interview based show, which is where this show kind of comes from, and the sort of the motivations for it. And I always wondered, like, why, what was it about it that I really wanted to do when I was doing the podcast and stuff. And I kind of realized early on that it was because my dad did that, and I always really liked, being at the radio station and being in broadcast and stuff like that. That's sort of where that came from, and I didn't realize it at first. And it wasn't necessarily that he, definitely he didn't force me into anything like that, but I didn't realize that it was the thing that was sort of the motivation for me to get into streaming and podcasting and all of that stuff. It was just kind of a subliminal, like, oh, I didn't realize I actually really liked this as much as I did until I started doing it.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from.
Totally. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I was wondering about the writing. Is that something that you just kind of picked up from your dad as like because it's, the creative writing side of things, and you sort of, that's how you understand, or how your process and stuff, or is that just something that you just kind of figured out on your own?
I think I've always admired it, and I've read his things. And also I write for nerdnewssocial.com every Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
I have an article that comes out for comic book related stuff. So
Right.
I guess I don't know. I guess I've always been interested, and I read a lot of comics, and I guess it's, yeah. I don't know. I think I have more influence from my dad's problem solving abilities than
Right.
actual writing. I still think I have a ton I could learn from him, and uh, he has just so much experience. It's absolutely insane. He's written on a lot of things, and what's funny is one of my favorite stories of his that I've heard is when he was getting into the industry. He said that what he did is he wrote a you have to write these scripts, like a sample script, and you send it in, and they read it and they go, yes, you can either write a script for us, or no, this isn't the style. But what he did is he wrote a script, printed it out, because this was many years ago. It's not the digital email stuff. He put it in a box full of ping pong balls and mailed it. And he said in the note, I have the balls for this job. And there's just, see, he's just like a super creative guy. And
Right.
we can't really
Well,
do things like that now, because like they'll think it's a bomb
Right.
or something. So but yeah, he's super creative. He actually has a book on Amazon that's a best-selling book that talks about a lot of the crazy stuff that he's done in the entertainment industry, either getting jobs or on set. It's called Hollywood Huckster. It's a short book, all true stories, everyone's names revealed, and it's very interesting, including a
Wow.
time where my dad and his partner brought a live lion to MGA for a pitch.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That-
So the
that's
creativity, I think, comes from my dad, and just being around the art for my mom. And then the writing, I
That's
don't think
awesome.
I'm that great at, but I try.
I mean, as long as you try, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're almost at the half hour mark. What are some things that you're kind of working on right now in what we're doing right now, technique wise? I can't see what you're doing, and you can be as vague as possible. What are some techniques that you like to use to kind of speed up your sketches?
One thing I try to do is not get too held up on just get the idea down. If it sucks, erase it. And one way that I like to draw is a way that kind of, when I saw Young Khan, and I know you mentioned Young Khan in episode 1, it would be funny if in every episode we mention Young Khan, but
He probably will come up.
Yeah.
Him and Half Pint are always going to come up because
Nice.
they're two of my biggest influences. So,
Awesome. I should check out
so
Half
yeah.
Pint a little more. I know I chat with him.
Yeah.
I should check him out a little more, a little deeper.
Right.
But the art of carving. So I'm not really that great with the, making great initial lines, but I'm not afraid to
Right.
erase. I'm not afraid to, carve it like a sculpt and to get it to where I want. I look at enough art each day that I can tell if something just isn't looking right. And even though I'm not doing it in this example here, I do think that one of the great things that has helped me a lot is if I print out my art and I just throw it on the
Right.
ground. and then I walk away and I come back and I look at it upside down, different angles. I get my mind off of
Wow.
the art. I walk away, I go away, and I come back and I kind of forget what I do because I have a short memory like a goldfish. And it kind of helps me go, oh, okay, I see a couple things because I'm not as like super in the artwork where I can like step back and look at it like a client at that point.
Right. Wow. I that's actually makes a lot of sense. Because I one of the techniques that Half Pint uses a lot, and a lot of emote artists especially, which is what he mainly does, is a lot of emotes and digital illustration stuff like that, like small form digital illustration, is he will flip the canvas to check perspectives and stuff quite a bit. And I didn't understand that at first until I started doing it. And you don't realize what you don't see, or that what other people may see until you look at it from a different perspective altogether. You may not be looking at it at their perspective, but you may not see it until you look at it that way or in another way. And then it just kind of helps kind of show you maybe a line is not where it needs to be or something like that, right?
Yep.
And I didn't realize that. That's one thing that he does a lot. Khan does that quite a bit too with his emotes, and that's something I picked up. I didn't do it with this because I'm using symmetry, so there's really not a whole lot you can't really change perspective on symmetry too much. But yeah, that makes total sense. The printing out and looking at it from that perspective and being able to change your perspective in space makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I'm actually using the symmetry tool as well on this. So I wonder if we're drawing the same exact piece.
We might be drawing the same thing now that I think of it, because I probably I don't really know if there's a whole lot of difference that you can do with this prompt, honestly, but hopefully it's a little different, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh,
yeah.
I lost my piece over here.
You lost your what?
Sometimes my piece. I got a little symmetry happy on the other side of the thing, and I forgot that I have something that's asymmetrical on the other side that I erased by accident.
Got you.
But I've drawn it back in, and we're good. We're good.
So we both had like a quick little issue right there.
Right.
And we're good.
But you know what? Warts and all, like, it's a process, just like everything. So, yeah. So let's see. What else did we talk about? We're at like 32 minutes.
Oh, should we switch to Illustrator?
Well, if we want to clean up any lines or anything. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about, was the symmetry. Because you do a lot of illustration, like fan art type stuff.
Yeah, I do.
A lot of you did like a villain series, Disney villain series. You've done a lot of emotes and stuff, and you do vector stuff. But I've noticed that you do a lot of symmetry stuff too, when you're working on those in your speed art. So what about because there's some people who are kind of against the symmetry tool. Mm-hmm. I am not. I clearly use it for logos and stuff. What is it about that you find works better for your artwork?
As a designer like yourself, I just find such beauty in symmetry, and sometimes just doing something really small that just brings it off symmetrically. But there's just something so beautiful with it that I love it. So that's right. It's just a personal preference. It's good to know other ways and other solutions, but I definitely think that, everyone has their own style and how they approach, like, if you go to a Swiss designer, it's going to be very minimalist. It's going to be very strong and grid-like, and it's okay for each person to have their thing. You can either be a chameleon, which a lot of graphic designers are and have to learn how to be, or you can be lucky and be one of those graphic designers where people come to you because of the way you design. And I do graphic design. I'm a chameleon for my full time, and all the stuff I do on Twitch, it's all the stuff that I loved as a kid. So it's all the stuff that is me. So all of this symmetry stuff and fan art that I like to do of like villain Disney characters and things like that. It's just, I don't want to lose myself in being a chameleon to make my day-to-day for my design job is all that is.
Right. No, yeah, I completely get that. Because like, I think there's a Okay, we're at 30 minutes, so we can go ahead and move over to Illustrator
All
when you're
right.
ready. So, okay, let's talk about what I was gonna say. Um, I get ahead of myself sometimes, but that's okay. Doing a lot of the stuff that I do on Twitch as well. I do a lot of commission work. I show a lot of commission work on Twitch, and there are some artists who strictly don't do that. There's a lot of artists that we both enjoy that do that, and you know, I have said many times that I'm just gonna stop doing commission work on stream because I feel like it. I lose something in it, but then I'm also like, if I can't just work even when there's people watching, then I can't work whenever there's not people watching, right?
Ooh.
So it's kind of like an exercise in focus, in your working on when you're working on stream and stuff like that. I don't know where I was going with that, but we were talking about processes and stuff like that, and kind of how we come to a finished product, or how we approach a project and stuff like that. And a lot of my stuff ends up being on stream, and that is it's tricky.
Yeah, I don't actually do that much design on stream. All of it's mostly
Right.
illustration. I mean, like, yeah. But it's good to like have your different outlets. Like I love to do DIY stuff like with wood and metal, and there's like I feel like I have three personalities. Like I'm split, but
Right.
I'm not a murderer like like Split,
I
um
mean, don't sell yourself short. I'm sure you're capable.
that you know of.
That right.
But so I feel that being creative and being
Right.
inspired can come from anywhere. It can come from architecture. It can come from just seeing negative and positive space. It can come from a story. It can come from anything. Creativity comes from everywhere. So
Right.
as an illustrator, you don't have to just look at illustrations. There's so much out there that can inspire you. I remember when I was in art school, I was doing a project on typography on a famous typographer called Wim Crowell. He was a Swiss designer, and he was known for using the grid. And I was in Boston, and everybody takes the bus, the train, the T. And I
Right.
remember I was waiting for the train to come, and I was looking at the negative and positive space between the stairs that you walk down to get to the subway. And I was like, oh my gosh, looking at this negative and positive space is so inspiring. I'm seeing that actually this reminds me of typography and the negative space and the positive space of typography. And typography is actually really just tiny buildings. Like the letter A is a tiny
Right.
building, a T is a tiny building. So even architecture has a beautiful way of inspiring artists as well. So
Right.
whatever it is, just do it, just make it.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. Like, you just kind of never know where you're gonna find any kind of inspiration.
Yeah, and it can
It's
just
amazing.
come from something someone says.
Right. So let's talk about, now that we're in Illustrator.
Mhm.
What is it about a lot of your work you end up doing in Illustrator? Because you are an illustrator. When did that whole, is that for a holdover from college? Do you just kind of feel comfortable in Illustrator, or is it just habit at this point, or what is it about Illustrator that you love?
Um, I that is a very good question, and I actually have a hard time figuring that out myself. Because I like to draw, but I don't feel like I'm good at it. Like I can't really draw characters. A lot of most of the stuff that you see is either my bunny or fan art, and
Right.
so I just feel that um, it is. I don't know why it's so fun for me. Maybe because I read so many comics that I like study each page. It takes me forever to read a comic, because of
Right.
how long I look at each page, and I read comics every night. Um,
Oh wow.
yeah, every night before bed, it's like I make sure I do that. So I guess I like it because I read so many comic books, and I love being connected to these characters and being able to make designs of these characters of stuff that I would want to wear. Because, like, not all designs out there of your favorite character or show are that great. Sometimes it's hard to find.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess I like it because I get to be more connected to the character, and I get to study them at like an extra level. So
It's
that's
interesting.
fun.
What comic books are you into?
I like a lot of horror comics. Right
Interesting.
now, I'm reading Ice Cream Man, which is actually a horror comic, by Image. I just finished reading Kill or Be Killed, which is also it's an Ed Brubaker comic,
Okay.
also by Image. And
Yeah.
I did just I have a Goodreads account, which is the social network for people who like to brag
Right.
about what they're reading and how far they are on the
Yeah.
on their reading. And I
Like those
actually,
bunch of nerds.
yeah, it is. It's great. And you get to see like, oh, my friend read that. Oh, cool. I want to like chat with them about it. And I did just finish reading the 3 issues of Snot Girl, which I didn't know was it's like a cute horror. It's like a cute
Yeah.
murder
I mean,
type of thing.
it just sounds adorable just by the name, right?
Yes. But yeah,
Interesting.
I just love this other side, because if I was just doing graphic design all the time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I do get that. It's you got to have something.
Yeah.
Everybody's got something that's different that they do. Um, yeah. I don't know anything about comics, and it's funny because so many people in the design world, in the art world, are just big into comics and anime and stuff like that, and that just has never been something that I've ever enjoyed. And it's not because I don't like the artwork or anything like that. There's something about I guess I just like real stuff. I don't know. I've always been that way. Like even when I was a kid, I've talked about this before. Uh I didn't even really watch cartoons much.
Gasp.
I watched I watched a lot of like Power Rangers and Walker Texas Ranger was anything basically violent, I guess, because I am a boy. Um I watched a lot of that kind of stuff, and it's not animated, and so it does make my understanding of the illustration world a little bit harder, because a lot of people who do this stuff are in that, and so everybody's kind of looking for character design or something like that, and that's just not my forte. So it kind of gets hard to find people to do work for and stuff, because that's what people want. The notion of original characters never made any sense to me as like a concept, and so I'm in this world now where I don't understand what is happening, and so it's interesting. It's very interesting
Well,
to be a part of
yeah.
that now.
I don't think I've met someone who didn't watch cartoons.
I mean, I have watched cartoons. I mean, I watched I want to make sure that I have watched cartoons. It just wasn't like I watched Rugrats and stuff like that. I was very much a Nickelodeon kid growing up, but all
Oh,
the stuff that I liked on
ew.
Nickelodeon was live action. So, um, other than Rugrats and like Doug and stuff like that, but for the most part, I was never really a cartoon kid.
That's okay. I can help you out if you need something to
Right,
watch. Like I've got plenty. I have like a whole list of
right.
anime that I'm going through right now.
Well, I may have to take you up on that, because my wife and I started watching Spirited Away. We have a HBO Max HBO Max subscription.
Mhm.
And they partnered with Studio. Is it Ghibli?
It's
Ghibli?
one of those. Yeah.
I don't know what the word is. It partnered with them, and so a lot of their stuff is on HBO Max now. I think it's via Crunchyroll, so like a lot of that stuff is there.
Mhm.
And so we gave it a try, and I just couldn't. I don't know how to. I just couldn't get into it. I really tried. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous, and I love it for that because I just love art.
Mhm.
But it's not my thing,
You know
and that's
what?
okay.
Thank you for trying. That's all it is. If it's not for you, you don't
Right,
have to be like everyone else. Like I'm sure
right,
90% of the people our age, if we ask them, if they like it, they'll probably say, "Yeah." You don't have to be one of those people. You bring your own stuff to the
right,
table.
right. I like that. I have never been a person to go with what everybody else does, just on principle. Um, that's just how I am.
That's
uh,
okay.
right. So now that we are at about 19 minutes left.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
We have covered quite a bit of ground. Um, so let's talk about your streams and your community with your streams and all of that jazz.
I love my
What it
community. I have
right,
such a cool bunch of people who I don't know for what reason they keep coming back, but I'm so glad they do. Everyone is either another type of artist who I really admire or is someone who's just really funny and nice to have around to just make me laugh or to make me see something in a different way. Because one thing I do in my streams is I'm not prepared. I don't have a sketch or anything. I have a vague idea. And something weird I like to do is, if possible, I like to take a nap before stream because it allows me to problem
wow,
solve in my mind a couple of things. If you keep your surface dreaming, this is kind of weird sounding. I'm sounding like a freaking hippie. But if you keep your mind like at a level that's like just below awake, where you're able to control it and kind of visually go through a bunch of stuff in your head and problem solve things, that's kind of what I do before
right,
stream. But I don't have anything ready or prepared. So the people in my stream, sometimes I'll ask them and I'll or I'll start drawing and they'll come up with something really interesting or something I didn't think about because I wasn't really thinking about it that much. I didn't really give myself enough time. I just kind of flew into
right,
it. So that's what I love about my community. No one's really, I don't have anybody negative. Everyone's so sweet. And even if I am having a hard time drawing hands because I suck at drawing hands, I'll have a hard
oh,
time. They'll just stick it out with me. Or sometimes, like I was drawing a braid. I was drawing a mermaid the other day, and I'm like, oh, how do you freaking draw a braid? Like, obviously, I've braided my hair before, but like, oh, I don't know how to
right,
draw a braid. And someone in chat's like, here you go. Here's a little drawing tutorial image of different braids you can draw. So they're so supportive, and I'm really lucky to
right,
have them. But that's a difference between doing, just fun fan artwork versus doing work that is, you're freelance. It might be a little harder because
right.
you have to concentrate and and all of that. So there's a bit of a
Right.
difference
Yeah.
there. But I love my
I mean, you're not
community.
wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong with that. Like it does there is something to be said for just kind of being able to go into streams and be able in your content just kind of being whatever happens in the stream as opposed to having a like a schedule of the things that you need to get done, which is a lot of the commission work stuff ends up being that way. Is I have a list of the things that I need to get done for the night, um, and that's one approach. It is an approach. That's the approach I take quite often. But I also try to do the same thing. I also try to just kind of wing it when I can. I use my stream as an excuse to force me to work sometimes.
Yeah.
Because of reasons. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want my clients to think that I'm just wasting time, which I'm not. But no, yeah, I completely get that, and I have been in your streams. I'm glad to be a part of your community, and there's some awesome people there, and you're right, they are extremely awesome and very kind, and
Oh, thank
there you
you.
go.
And I always love having you around. It's just I love I'm actually an introvert, believe it or not.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure a lot of the artists are, but we need our time to just be alone, and nobody sees that. Nobody sees us off stream how tired we can be or how we need to
right,
just like have a moment to ourselves. Um but there's something about stream that really energizes me, and I've only been streaming art for almost 2 years now, and
right.
I used to start my sketches before stream, and I would get so nervous and I'd be stressed out. But I found out that, a lot of the time the people who are in your stream, they just want to hang out. Like, it doesn't even matter if your piece turns out good. I was in a
Right.
situation where I was streaming and I forgot to switch my screen, and I was drawing, and like no one said anything, and they were chatting with me, and I look up, I'm like, you guys didn't even tell me I'm on the wrong screen. You're not even seeing my art right now. And they
They don't
just,
even care.
yeah, they just want to hang out, which is like super cool.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
So talking about your streams and stuff, what you kind of are on the schedule. You do art here and there. You do some fun. We did a shark uh a shark trivia night
Yeah.
the other night,
That was
which I
fun.
won, by the way.
Yes,
Which
I'm
I
gonna be
won because
sending
I
you
am.
stickers actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I am the smartest. I am the smartest shark boy, so I deserve stickers.
You surprised me, man. I was like, whoa, what?
Oh, I was guessing on about 90% of those questions.
You're a good guesser
Based
then.
on the multiple choice.
Whoa. Teach me
I
your
mean
ways.
that's a peek into how I got through high school.
That's okay. We don't.
But no, talking about your streams and stuff, what do you feel like is maybe something that's on the horizon, that maybe you're wanting to do something different or kind of innovate, or are you going to keep it kind of chill and keep it the same way, or what's some things coming up that you would like to see the future of your streams?
That's a awesome timing of that question, actually, because I am working on things in oh god, collections. So it took me, yes, this long to finish a whole bunch of villains. So I did 5 male and 5 female villains. And yeah, it took me this long because I've been doing like stuff in between the villains. I'll take a break from one
Right.
villain and stuff like that. And so I'm on my last villain, Magica Dispel from Darkwing Duck and also DuckTales. So after I'm done with her, I'm going to do probably a small something or other. And then I'm going to be working on a new series because I want to work in series of things of 10. So that I actually want to bring stuff over to coffee shops and have them display. Because if you have a collection, they're more interested in, oh, you already have a collection. Let me see your collections. And so if I can offer them a collection or two, they're like, oh,
Right.
yeah, let's just do this one. And I already have it ready. So.
Oh, that's really cool, though.
Thank you. It's
That's
random.
really cool. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, and it gives me a challenge because it's one thing doing one piece of art, and it's another thing of making a collection out of it. Like, can you
Right.
do this style in 10 times with different characters? So
Right.
I'm going to
Right,
be
right.
doing next fake location spots, and I know what you're thinking. Oh, that's been done before, and yeah, it has, but I'm gonna do it my way. So fake location spots from like video games and things like that will be my next.
To be
set.
fair, I wasn't thinking that. So.
But I'm gonna make it more logo style. So I'm gonna basically be making
Right.
logos for these different locations. And if you imagine it like a stamp, like we know what stamps look like, so kind of like in that
Right.
kind of way.
Cool.
Yeah, and So I'm moving more towards design now. So where illustration was more of the focus for those, now I'm moving more into design for this next phase of 10. And I know that it's possible that a lot of people will be like, oh, it's not as much illustration as I like. That's okay. I mean, if I lose some people because I'm doing something that I love, other people will join because they might
Right.
like it. And I know that's a hard thing with streamers and video games. You know, they might get tired of a video game or something, which happens. And if you change your video game, you'll lose a lot of people because that's the video game they want to see. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just going to
That's
keep
really cool
trying.
though. Right.
Yeah.
And we're at, oh my gosh, we're almost out of time.
Oh no, how much time do we have?
We're at 9.5 minutes.
Oh god.
We're getting down to the nitty gritty now. Now is the time that we make decisions on what do we want to keep and what do we want to get rid of.
Yeah.
And this is the coming down to the end of it. This is where I start putting tense music into the show.
Oh.
Adding the drama.
Can you sing for me then, so I feel the tension?
I don't know if I should do that or
I'm
not.
just kidding.
I want people to actually watch this and not turn it off.
We don't have to turn it into a Twitch sings.
Yes, please no.
Yeah, I am. I'm on my. Oh yeah, I need to speed up. Talking
Right.
and arting is very hard.
It is. It really is. I wish more people understood that, because it is a I don't know how to explain that. It is extremely difficult to do both of those things at the same time.
Yeah, making color choices now that I don't think go well, but it is what it is.
Right.
How's yours coming along?
It's all right. It's a little bit of a beefer. It's got some weird angles and stuff, but it is what it is with time. You know, I have one thing that I've been trying to do, and maybe this could be a piece of advice for up and coming people who maybe want to get into art. You know, a lot of us artists don't really like our work, and we're kind of our own harshest critic a lot of times. But one thing that I've been trying to do recently, which is not easy, because I say this, it's going to sound like I'm doing a humble brag. I am extremely humble when it comes to my art, because I, am self-taught and I'm not as confident in it. So like a lot of the things that I do, I'm either doing for the first time or I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. It's not as much of a natural thing for me. And so, when I'm doing this stuff, one of the things I'm trying to do is be a whole lot nicer to myself as I'm going with the process. And the way that what that looks like is basically me trying to say something nice about the thing that I'm doing, giving myself a compliment, and it being okay that I give myself a compliment. That is kind of difficult for some people, it's one thing to give yourself a compliment, but it's entirely another thing to just be okay with giving yourself a compliment,
That's actually,
because I think,
yeah, I like that.
I think a lot of people are afraid that they're going to sound egotistical if they're giving themselves a compliment. But one thing I've found, and I had a friend, good friend of my streams and my shows and stuff, who said, you gotta stop, kind of slow back or with the self-deprecating stuff, because your stuff is extremely really good, and you need to like be okay with it, because it kind of is a turnoff. And that hit me extremely hard, because I was like, he's a really good friend, and he is not an artist. And the way I have to look at it is, some people just don't know whether it's good or not, and you kind of have to, they just like you for you and what you're doing. And so it's, you got to kind of be okay with the work that you do.
Wow, that's beautiful. I think that that's a really good lesson for for people to keep in mind, and everybody goes through it. I know that like it doesn't really matter like how much experience, it's definitely something a lot of people go through. So I think that's probably, if
Right.
anyone's getting anything from the stream today, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really hard time
Take
right
it from
now.
me.
So yeah, listen to him.
It is. There's a lot of people are dealing with just a lot of negative thoughts about just the world in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually kind of glad that this prompt came up, because we are, the world is kind of in a weird spot right now, and I don't know. I just, if you can take one thing away, is just be nicer to yourself a little bit, I don't know. That's about as simple as I can make it. It's just, be nice to yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I was thinking,
Be
I
nice to
actually
yourself.
took the day off on Monday because I was feeling a bit overwhelmed. And
Right.
I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to order myself some food this weekend. I'm just going to watch movies.
Nice.
I'm really going to just make sure to take care of me this weekend. And that's
Right.
what I'm going to do.
There you go. I mean, you can't talk about ordering food and not tell us what you're gonna have.
I love Mexican
that's
food.
a must. Right.
So I'll probably order Mexican.
You have a specific thing that you like when you order Mexican food?
I forget what it's called. What is it? It's like a sandwich with chicken and avocado. Oh, I always forget what it's called. I'm so bad. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Like, I always look at the menu and I'm like, oh yeah, the picture, that's the one.
That's funny. I don't remember things either. It's okay.
Okay, good.
I'm the worst. I am the literal worst when it comes to I'm getting bold here. I'm gonna try something.
Ooh.
It may not work out, but I'm gonna try it.
Why not? Now's the time.
Right. If not now, when?
One thing I have been using a lot lately, because it takes away some thinking, is going into the swatch library, into gradients, and straight up using the gradients that they have there.
Right. I'm glad you said gradients, because I'm using gradients.
Nice.
For sure. Ooh, not that one, though. Let's go to swatches. We are at 2 minutes 40 something seconds.
Ooh, thanks. Thank you. I'm just doing final touches. Oh, and of course.
I'm thinking we're just gonna leave. I'm gonna do a little highlighting real quick. I kind of got excited with yeah, you know what? Let's do this. This will be faster. This is what happens. I start getting into streamer mode of start getting into like, all right, explaining what I'm doing and stuff, but I'm doing it just so that I don't go crazy.
Yeah, handle it.
And I'm not trying to explain it for anybody else, but for myself, because I don't even know what I'm doing right this second. So,
most of the time, I don't think any of us really know what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just have an idea and then we go for it.
Right. We're just going to combine this. I should have just done that from the beginning. There we go. Make that a little bit thicker. Give us a gradient here. How you feeling so far?
Good, but my computer is acting super dumb right now. So, like,
yeah.
Like, come on, baby, give me the gradient I want.
All right, we got 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Okay. I hope this ends up working out. Yeah, I'm like working with a drop shadow and my computer keeps doing the spinny wheel, but it's still working, just slow.
I need a background.
Can you do it?
I can. I have 45 seconds. We'll just do gradients because that seems to be come on. Give me the greens. Come on. We're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to happen. Your 30 seconds. Oh, come on. Come on, Illustrator.
I know, my Illustrator's acting whack. Okay, there. Wait. Wow, it's like going so slow right now. I'm just like, come on, guys. Stop with the spinny wheel.
Probably shouldn't. No, come on. There we go. Okay. Oops. G. That's it. That's the time.
All right, pencils down. All right, sweet. Look at that. Very nice. Woo, I'm not good with humans, so you nailed that.
I'm not either. Clearly I'm not either. But yeah, no, I yours is absolutely awesome. That is amazing that you did that in an hour. First of all,
symmetry tool for the win.
I know,
that's
right?
Really,
I mean, look, we kind of did the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Sort of.
So the green, the earth, and what was the other one? What was the third? The expression.
I can tell you.
Surprised or
impressed.
Impressed. So tell me, how did you? Why the guy with the blue eyes and white hair?
Well, my idea. Okay, I am not necessarily a believer in God necessarily, but I was kind of going for like a God creating the world and looking at it, holding it, and being impressed by it.
Oh, hell yes, yes.
That's kind of the idea. So that was sort of where my jacked up, beefed up hands were.
Yeah.
Holding it, but that was my take on it.
That's awesome.
Right.
What took you the most?
What is yours representative of?
Well, the expression is in the face, and this kind of like a green metal and strength.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what were the three again? I forget what the
green, world, and impressed.
Oh, green, world, and impressed. So green.
It could be world champion.
Yeah.
World champion.
Yes, there we go. World champion. That's what I was thinking.
There you go. And it's very impressed with itself.
Yeah, it is. That's, I don't know, like talking and drawing, it was hard, and I kept forgetting what the three were, and I erased it at one point. But yes, world champion, that's what it was, totally.
Yeah. Wait till you see how many times I tried to draw the hand and erase it before I actually drew it how I wanted it. So you'll laugh at that part.
So that's what
because we were talking about
the longest. I'm curious, like where the time was spent. It was the hand.
Yeah, the hand for sure was the hardest part for me.
It looks really good. I mean, it's there.
Thank you.
That's a hand for sure.
It's a hand. It's not a good hand, but it's a hand.
I mean, you're working.
It's very clearly a hand.
No, it's totally. To me, it looks right. I mean, you're working with foreshortening and perspective. That's a really hard thing to do, and I think you did a great job with it. And I like how you're having these various levels of depth with the hand and the earth and the character behind it. Just kind of putting it all in. I think by having this person looking at this small world, it kind of gives a particular emotion of, reality, like how small our world really is. So I like it.
It's beautiful.
All of that in just minutes. You just were like, boom, I know what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. I really like the fact that that your metal is impressed with itself. And it's very strong, a very strong metal. I really love it.
Thank you.
I think it's amazing.
One thing I did in this piece that I don't usually do is I used layer effects, I think they're called. Let me look on my thing.
In Illustrator, right?
Yeah, in Illustrator. What are these things called? It's I guess
transparency effects.
Yeah, transparency effects.
Like blending modes in Photoshop, right?
Yes, I did that on only the ribbon because I was running out of time. I did it for the shadow part of the ribbon, but usually I don't because it doesn't always give me the pop that I want. So as you can see with, the greens, how I used yellow, that really like makes it pop. And on the skin tone with the shadow, like I selected those colors specifically. With the ribbon, to me, the shadows look kind of dull. But if I had more time, I would
Right.
do it individually and use Pathfinder to cut the paths and select a better pop of shadow if I had more
Right.
time. And plus, I'm missing some areas that should have shadow and things like that. But I will
But
say people use these blending effects, and I'm all for saving time. But if
right.
I'm working on a personal project, I usually don't because it's for me and I'll take as much time as I want.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think it's amazing. I actually, so somebody that I would like to have on the show. I don't know if you watch Draw Off on YouTube at
I
all,
do, yes.
from BuzzFeed.
I just
Okay,
watched
so
an
Kevin
episode
McShane,
today.
right, the one they put out today was really cool.
Yeah.
But Kevin McShane is someone that I really admire in his illustration style. And he talked about in one of his episodes when he does shading, because it's faster, he'll do like a straight black,
Hmm.
but do like a color burn
Mhm.
blending mode. And so like no matter what color he goes over, it's a value of that color being shaded.
I
So it's
see.
kind of the same idea. But I do agree with you. Whenever I do shadows and whenever I do in especially in Illustrator, I will hand choose a color for the highlight and for the shadow,
Mhm.
and do it that way as well, instead of doing it with just a blending mode. But it is a lot faster,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
does give you the right value of, no matter what color you're going over, it gives you the right shade and value for it. But I agree with you. I would much rather do it. I didn't get much shading done in mine, just because
You
of
did a lot of
time,
work,
and it
so
just
yeah.
yeah, it takes forever to do shading. But I love the highlights and shading in yours. It's one of my favorite things about digital art, and well, art in general, but digital art especially. Like, you can really make things look real and pop out with shading and highlights, and I love it.
Thanks. This was very fun. I must say, this was a great way to stretch your creativity with these prompts. So thank you so much for doing this. This made me kind of think about some of my strengths and weaknesses as an artist myself. And also,
Right.
I mean, thanks for allowing me to get to know you a little more, and obviously, you know a little bit about me now. And
Yeah.
I know I talk a lot. It's
Thanks for
just
sharing your
I
story.
swear I'm an introvert, but when we talk about art, it's just I'm all in.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. It's as streamers, I think one of the big things that in content creators, people get to see us, but with streaming in particular, I feel like people really get to know you, because when you're live, you're just kind of reacting and they get to know you. But do they really get to know you? Because you maybe not your entire life story or how you got into things. So I the way that I want the show is, it is a lot about the art, but it's more about the people, and I think that's really important to anybody who's creative, and anybody who would want to be creative, anybody who wants to learn about art or any industry where it's creative, or you're doing something that maybe other people can't do. I think it's important for the people that can do the things to be humanized as much as possible, because we are just people, and we all have a life story, and we all came from somewhere. We weren't born with this, unless we're savants, and then that's a whole different thing. But we all have to work at this, and we all have to, just like life, we all have to work at it. So um, that's the important part about the show. That's what I wanted from the show, and I think that's what we got from this
I
episode. So I
highly
appreciate
recommend
it.
people who's listening to this now to check out the previous episode. Can you say his name one more time? Who was episode one?
Lunchbox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I learned a lot about him,
Yeah.
and he really opened up, and I'm so glad to know more about him. So I think, thank you again, and also people should check out that episode as well.
Right. So real quick before we head out, please once again let us know where we can find you on the internet, where we can find your art, and get more of that Lindsay in our life that we need so much.
Oh, wow. More Lindsay. If anyone's interested in more Lindsay, you can check me out on just about any social network at LNZDesigns. Twitch, Instagram, TikTok for time lapses. I'm really pushing my YouTube right now, LNZ Designs. I have time lapses of art, but also other sure I'm going to also put this video when it's live. I'll tag it in my channel as well. And I've done other interviews for nerdnewssocial.com with other artists and product reviews, and I'm doing a lot of nerdy DIY for those collectors out there who have a lot of figures and things like that. What do we do? How do we display them? What's a nerdy way to organize all of our awesome stuff? And I've been putting videos out each week or every other week on my vlog. So thank you so much. I hope you guys check out anything. I'd like to connect with you guys on any platform. Just send me a message so you know where you saw me from, so I can definitely say hello.
Absolutely. And all the links that Lindsay shared will be in the description below, as well as all my links. You can find me twitch.tv/barely_lethal. I don't have a schedule right now, but you can pretty much guarantee that I'm either going to be doing art or not doing art. That's about as vague as I want to be. Sometimes I play video games, sometimes I don't. You can also find me on social media at barely_lethal on Twitter, at barely lethal without the underscore on Facebook, and at barely_lethal TV, because I can't get all of them for some reason, on Instagram. And I try to share as much as possible of my art process and just kind of my day-to-day kind of motivation, stuff like that. So make sure you follow there. If you like this video, leave a subscription, hit the bell so that you get notified whenever the next episode is. And thank you so much, Lindsay. I appreciate you, and you guys have a great night.
Thanks.